There's no perfect moment. You just got to do it. When the genie pops up and says, you have 3 wishes, you don't say, let me get back to you next Friday.
You just
When
take action.
you just start asking for the wishes, but you have to know yourself enough and know the opportunity of the moment to ask for the right things.
Today is all about the core of what's available in life. Well, for those dreamers that are willing to dig in deeply and fantasize what next can become. I think for many of us, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to believe enough. And that probably is stopping us from getting everything out of the life we really want to have. And then we meet these awesome people that poke their heads in life and say, here I am. I'd love to get to know you. And then you get to know them. And you get to learn that, wow, things that you didn't imagine are possible. Yes, they are. And I've learned it's the believers that create their dreams, that unlock how to get there. And today, I'm so very excited to share with you somebody super special in my life on a personal level, on a professional level, and I would even suggest on a mentor level. This is my gorgeous, beautiful friend, Roddy de la Garza. Roddy, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. I was so happy to get the invite. I know that wherever Scott leads, it's going to go into some new dimension of incredible. So I'm here.
So isn't it fun in life when we get to say hi to people new? So I got the pleasure of meeting Roddy years ago through a common friend of industry, of real estate industry. And when I first met Roddy, it was a meeting I'll never forget. And Roddy goes, Scott, I thought I was just getting to meet you. I didn't know I was going to a job interview. And that was the kickoff to somebody I knew was extra special standing in front of me. And he shared something magical with me that day. And I'd really love you to hear it. We were sitting together in my Century City office, visiting, getting to know each other. And Roddy is a different outlier in life. He's a very high level of, well, of course you can. You put something in front of Roddy, and the next thing you know, he's standing in front of, once he adopts it, of, yes, you can. Allow me to share with you what I mean. So when I met you, Roddy, remember you were coming from Texas, coming into the Los Angeles market with a brand that wasn't necessarily deeply loved yet from everybody in the industry because it was really disrupting the way the industry was behaving. And you were coming on board and you were like killing it in Texas. Your Texas market, you owned that market. If I'm correct, when you were making your move here to the Los Angeles market, weren't you closing over 80 transactions yearly? It was an abundance of closings. I could be wrong on the number.
You're a little off, but it's okay. On the year before I came to Los Angeles, before the opportunity was provided to me to relocate, I closed or was involved in, because I mentored a few dozen transactions, but it was 108 transactions.
Oh, I was off. Dang it. I knew it was a lot. Well, see? So can I share with you, please, somebody who's coming from 108 transactions that they participated in successfully. Now you're being invited to move to a completely new city, and it's not an ordinary city the invitation's coming through. This is Los Angeles. I would suggest one of the most competitive cities in the market in the nation, one might say, is LA. And I said to Roddy, here we go, everybody. This is so fun. I said to Roddy, I'll never forget this ever. I'm like, well, how are you going to take that success and allow yourself to come here and to rebuild? And my mind was trying to wrap around, where was your mind and how were you finding the space to invite that type of move? And you shared something with me when I asked that question. Do you remember the answer, Roddy? It had something to do with PTA.
At that time, I was coming over with the fintech brokerage that was, expanding across all of those areas. They were providing us with good resources and leads. And at that time, and we should say it was a moment in time, it was like a time capsule that was just over 10 years ago. At that time, technology had taken over, right? And the ability to introduce people through online leads and through all kinds of synergies and opportunities was very strong. So what I had experienced in Texas was that you don't sell houses at PTA meetings anymore. That made you laugh.
I loved it so much because my mind was like, well, how are you going to do it? How are these people going to get to know you? And then Roddy goes, well, Scott, people will find us because they engage online first, and we're there in the first position to say hello. So, Scott, I'm really confident that the abilities that work so well in my current market are going to do incredibly well in the new market. And I was sitting there in front of you, Roddy, with such incredible amazement. And that was the day I knew somebody super special. And that this was a great time to bring somebody. It was everything gorgeous is what it was, because you are. Roddy, you're an incredible believer. You were sitting in front of me with so much self-belief. And it was that self-belief that invited you to uplift from Texas and to bring your talent to California. And I know you had been here before and done other things, but this was a big change. And I love it. Can I ask you, please, Roddy, when that invitation happened going back those years ago, what tool, what moment, what epiphany, what interpretation was available for you to say yes to that type of change? Because that's a big change. That's a huge change. It's a market change. It's a movement. It's a life change, a living change.
That's a great question, because I've looked at it over the years and I've been able to get feedback now from folks who were mentors to me or involved in that time. And, I had come out here to attend RuPaul's Drag Con. And while I was here, one of the executives at the company asked me to come to her office. And I went to her office and she showed me, hey, if you're selling 108 houses in Texas and you sell only half that much in LA, based upon price point, right? This is what your income would be. And she just wrote it out to me, visual. Visual is very important to me. Circled the number to me and said, how would you like to sell half as many houses and make twice the income? And that placed a seed in my mind, right? She's very good at what she does. And it took me a few months. And I can't say that I was always confident, because what I did in Texas was very easy. I grew up in real estate in Texas. And I remember the opportunity there was presented. And at that moment, I wasn't always full of confidence, right? But I remember I sat down, we'd taken my dogs for a walk with our minister and her wife. And my husband and I were sitting out there with the dogs, and I knew I had to make a decision. And we're sitting out in this uptown park in Dallas. And I said to our minister, I said, what if I go out there and I fail? What if I go out there and what I'm taking doesn't work? What if people don't respond to my Texas twang? And she just looked at me with all confidence and she just said, but what if it does?
I love that, Roddy.
Because what if it all works out? What if everything just works out? And in that second right there, we knew we were moving, because I'm just the kind of person that if I didn't do it, I would always wonder. And that has formulated how I changed everything in regards to stuff. Is instead of looking how things are going to fall apart, I look at how magically everything is coming together, And just that mindset and those set of expectations created an atmosphere where mentally I never thought I could fail.
That's right. Oh, Roddy, what did you just say?
It never entered my mind that I'd fail after that point. Yeah. And I ran into one of the executives from Texas a couple years later at that company. And he said something to me that I had never had anyone say to me before. He goes, Roddy, I'm so proud of you. You're so brave. I was like, me? Brave? He goes, what you did was extremely brave. And that also kind of then made me think, wow, I can be brave. I did something bold, but it was a mind shift change provided by that moment in that dog park where someone just said to me, erase all that old stuff and just believe it's all going to work out. And that became it. There was no other option but for me to succeed.
And boy, did you ever. Roddy, it did all work out on an why does the word explosive level come to mind first? Because sometimes life can take time. And I've learned, well, it doesn't have to. And that I don't want to call them shortcuts, because there's no shortcutting to there. They're invitations to get to life's desires quicker. And who gets there? Self-believers, ones that say, I can't fail. You know what I've learned? When you walk around in life with this thoughts that I can't fail, you're going to be willing to do things you never dreamt possible. Because if you're not failing, you're just succeeding. Even if the moment didn't work the way you thought, at least you got to participate in the moment. And then you can taste it. And then you can see if you like it or you don't like it. And then you readjust. So that's not a fail. is an opportunity.
I love what you said, because I know that in somewhere that came to your spirit, the idea of explosive. But what I realized also, what I've kind of seen happen, is you have to surround yourself with other people who have the same thing within them that wants to ignite. Because if you think about it, what's happened is when you move towards those opportunities with people who believe in you and themselves as much as you do, it's like you can't light one match in a book of matches. Those people around you are going to ignite as well too. And those who fail to ignite around in your sphere, well, they don't belong there. And so what I think is interesting is what I've watched is that through loyalty, through connections, through clients, people engage with something that's within. And when that spark is lit, whatever you want to define it as, it affects everybody around you. And when you start having that kind of effect around people, you just don't care about the ones who don't see it the way that you do. You focus on the ones who do, and you just go out there and take care of those situations and those opportunities as they present themselves. So it is explosive, because as soon as one match lights, think about it, or one sparkler lights in a bundle of sparklers, everything takes off.
Gosh, that's a gorgeous way to visualize it. Roddy, can I ask, please, is there something that you're able to do, and does it ever show up? Does that, I call it the little guy that comes on the shoulder, the little guy of self-doubt, and it might not, and it could. And do you have a little guy that ever tries to visit and whisper in your ear? And if so, how do you get the little guy off?
Absolutely. Here's the thing is we all have that. I've made friends with it. Right? That's the best thing to do is, there's the gremlin, there's the thing, right? But because it'll pop up at all different times. I may be grumpy or fearing something or, whatever it may be. But when I've befriended it, it's not scary and it's recognizable. But my favorite empowering phrase over the past 15 years is, who cares? Who cares? I mean, because so many of us hold on to so many things about either how people are interpreting us, or that we made a mistake, or that there's something going on that's outside of our control. So people focus on all these things that fundamentally at the end of the day don't matter. So one of the things I love to just say is, no matter what is, and it really centers me back into what's the next current solution, is just to ask myself, who cares? If that's real or not real, who cares? It's not going to change what I have to do next.
That's delicious. Words are things, and they create self-thought and self-belief. Roddy, well, I'm in love with your little tool of how to get rid of it. Accept it, and who cares? And I love what you also said, Roddy. Surround yourself with other like-minded people that are on their passion drives, and you're going to find more in life that you can unlock from it. I think much more so than those Debbie Downers or the Eeyores that are also out in life. And I think sometimes, and I think you said it, Roddy, life might trick us into paying more attention to the people that we're not connecting to versus to the people we are. And that can bring our energy and self-belief down. Mm-hmm. And when you adopt who cares, then all of a sudden you're available for Debbie Downer and Eeyore to show up, and who cares? Shingling. And you move on to the one they're lit and they're delicious and full of light. It matters. And filtering is valuable and sometimes painful. But I know that delicious lives on the other side of that filter. Why? Because we're going to think differently. We're going to surround ourselves differently. You're constantly showing up in life in many awesome ways, Roddy.
And the thing is life is unpredictable and life is tough. That's the truth of it. The idea is that, you can't fail, but truth, succeeding often involves failing. So the thing is how do you identify and look at that failure? One of my favorite mentors in real estate is Barbara Corcoran. And she says the difference between, the winners and the losers is how long they spend feeling sorry for themselves. And I think that's really good too, because I think the idea here is that every failure provides a lesson. And there's no way to succeed if you don't fail. I know that I've made many mistakes over my life, but it's like, to what degree do you learn from them and move forward? And the idea that one down moment doesn't define you, just as one success doesn't define you either. It's all about the action of what you're doing at the moment and how you're going forward. So technically, you can't fail. I agree with you, even when you're failing, because you have to have that mindset to just say, okay, here comes a lesson, or here, apparently I'm ready to figure this part out today. And, something's being presented to me that I didn't want to deal with, or is uncomfortable, or wasn't what I was expecting. But when you befriend it, take the power away and just go, okay, whatever result happens, I'm going to show up 100%. I'm going to do the right thing and get through it. And then from there, you'll feel more empowered on the other side. So when you do fail, you're even not failing.
Isn't that the truth, Roddy? It's the truth, because how can an experience be a failure? I think the failures are when we don't get to have the experiences anymore. Everything else is a moment. And you know what's so cool about moments? You can adjust to the next one. You just change. Life is about choices. And what's so cool is that they're self-created choices. And it's up to us to do that. And what happens when you do, you get bold, you get brave, you get willing to be available for the opportunities life is willing to give you. And Roddy, may I please, I'll never forget what we were visiting. You've made some great career moves on your journey so far in life. And what I love is that you leave behind, what's so cool about you, Roddy, is that when you enter a space, you're remembered quickly. And life is often forgettable. And so are the people we meet on the journey. But every now and then you find these outliers. And these outliers can leave an emotional footprint behind. And you have that ability, Roddy. It's delicious. And you're constantly giving. You have a unique focus on giving to others to help them become stronger, bigger, and bolder in the life they're living. And where I know that from, Roddy, is that, you've left a footprint on me, my goodness, but you've left a footprint on many, and they follow you on the journey of life. And I think that those are the folks that, if we can find them in the life that we're living, those are the people that are going to bring us to self-belief. The first man that touched my world was Carl, my foster father. He brought to me hope. I didn't have that earlier before him. And that hope tool did a lot. And I've learned how to dig deeply into it. Roddy, you've got some wonderful tools. I'll never forget another moment, Roddy, that was super special. One that you touched me at a very deep level. Life-changing event, and allow me to bring it back into text, because it was such an odd moment. I was the past state president for California's Lending Association, and we were going through a dramatic level of reform. This was during the era from the collapse of the 2007-2008 mortgage and real estate, and that took years to recover through. During that process, I somehow found my way becoming a big role player in how we helped to get to the other side. And I felt a high level of passion. And I also felt a level of responsibility, because I had adopted that when I was invited to do it. And when I left the position of president, I didn't leave my feelings. And there was going to be a national mortgage conference held that year. And they had somebody that I felt incredibly divisive as a keynote speaker, and it made no sense to me why we would have such a person, especially in the time of recovery, coming to a mortgage industry with speak of hate and other things that just don't fit in the world of real estate or mortgage lending. This is a space where everybody that qualifies has a right to own real estate and to finance the real estate they want to purchase. We don't look at religion. We don't look at color. We don't look at any of the ingredients of what make us individuals. We just look at you, the individual. Well, this particular conference had Ann Coulter as the keynote speaker. And if you know Ann Coulter and you follow her whatsoever, everybody has a right to love who they love in life. Please don't love everybody I love. You go find love. We can't all fit at the party together. We're supposed to be individuals. And I honor you for the contrast that you might have and the thoughts we may or may not share together. You invite me to see the things I can't self-create when I say hello to those moments. I say that on purpose. They don't belong at a keynote event for a mortgage conference for somebody who speaks about people's religion, their colors in a very negative way. And I felt very emotionally affected by that choice. And I said to my beautiful friend, Roddy, I said, Roddy, I'm so upset. I'm going to boycott the event. Do you remember what you said to me that day, Roddy?
I remember that. I said that boycotting is the opposite action of what you should take, that you need to show up and be present, because as much as everyone has a right to speak what they believe in certain situations and settings, I do believe that. I understood it was a moment in time. What year was that? It was like
2017, 2016,
so it was a very
2018
particular,
in
it's
that
important
bubble.
to note that, right? And it was
Please.
very controversial, and and I said, well,
Very.
Scott, well, you have the opportunity here to retreat or to show up, right? And more than anything, if you're feeling called, because if no one's going to speak up, what about me, right? And it's that idea that perhaps you were being called to be there for the other people who thought like you, and that they were going to need a friend, and they were going to need someone to be there. Because I know that innately, Scott, you're a leader. And I mean, that's something that I've had to embrace in myself. People are attracted to us as leaders. And the real
Yes.
genuine Scott I know wouldn't have retreated in that moment. He would have shown up in all his glory and been heard, because as much as everyone has a right to speak, everyone also has a right to be heard.
No, that's exactly what you told me. You said that for sure. And you said, Scott, use your voice, be the voice. You said all of that. That's why I said, did you hear Roddy tell us earlier? It's important who we surround ourselves with. Why? When life shows up with something, the right person that really loves you authentically is going to guide you in a great space. And that moment in time, I found myself weighing not to go to be a big stance by not showing up, because that's standing up to something, but it's not creating the change.
Because the gremlin, right? The gremlin is saying, this is about me. I don't want to go, right? Whereas the other side of it is, you're not going for you. You're going for everyone else who needs to be heard or think about like you. So when you make it not about the me, but you make it about the we, and that's how I am very much for real estate agents these days, is very much about the people in the field working every day, showing up, showing houses, doing that. So many people try to harness the energy of that magic. If we don't look out for all, we're not even looking out for ourselves. And if we just look out for ourselves, then we're insularly much more open to the slays and arrows of outrageous force. Just anything can happen to you if you're all alone and it knocks you out. You got to surround yourself with other people. So I would say that at that conference, at that time, as a past president, you weren't even there for yourself at all.
Not whatsoever. I love you, Roddy. That is exactly what you reminded me that day. And you said, Scott, your voice is for the others that can't be there and have that ability. In fact, Roddy, you inspired me so much. Okay, I rushed myself to Las Vegas where this conference was. I got there early, and I knew to get there early because the board of directors were having their meeting before the whole conference began. And as past president, I felt self-invited to share my thoughts. Roddy got me going really good. I'm driving myself to Vegas. I didn't have time to get an airline flight. I just popped myself into the car, and there we go. And I arrived. And I sent a letter to everybody before I arrived, and I told them my thoughts in the letter. And then I arrived, and I wanted to have my moment to speak to them. And they said this to me. I'll never forget it. They said, Scott, we received your letter, and we understand your position. We appreciate you sharing it with us. We're now going to be entering our board meeting, and we'll make sure to take this into account. And I said, that's terrific, but I would like to speak to the board. It's why I'm here. I'm sorry, Scott. This is a closed door board meeting. I say I can understand why you would want to have a meeting that's closed doors to speak on topics. Might I ask, and this is you, Roddy, this was you in the moment in my head. Here's what I said. Can I ask, do you feel like my question would be better asked in front of the entire national group in tomorrow's live meeting? Shall I raise my hand and ask the question then? Or do you think this private closed door space might be a better space to have this conversation in? Where do you think we might want to speak about this? And they said, well, when you put it that way, I guess it would be better here. I said, terrific, let's begin. And I sure did. And Andy Price, you beautiful man, I hope you're hearing us. Andy Price, a leader, an incredible leader of industry. He continues to lead. He never stops. He literally stood up and says, "Who's Ann Coulter?" He didn't know who she was. And not everybody would. And then when he discovered who it was, I think it was really disturbing, and not everybody knew. And so it was really neat to see the effect of the power of a voice. And if I would have walked out that door, allowing them to tell me the letter was received, we'll talk about it, it's not true. Andy would never have heard me speak to have enough reason to care to ask, who is this person? I moved a person that day. And I wouldn't have had the ability to, and I don't know who else I moved. I'm sure some, but I don't know if I could have if I wasn't present to do the work. And Roddy, I love you for inspiring me to show up that day. Here's what I've learned in life. We, you, I make a difference. And we make the difference when we participate, especially inside of the uncomfortable spaces we might get invited to or self-create a space to get invited to. It's the magic that happens on the other side of the uncomfortable. And Roddy, may I please? I'm so impressed with your willingness to dream up new, fresh, consistent ideas that examine life deeper. May I please? There's another moment. You know what I've learned, Roddy? I've learned that others find themselves more available for change when they see other people successful in stepping into change. It's not always easy to be those that are uncomfortable in changing things like career and life events. And those are big events. Most of us avoid change in those spaces. But Roddy, I've learned that believers invite. Just like I don't care and I invite that little man that might come on my shoulder, I just become okay with it and then I don't care. And gosh, that's so powerful, everybody. It's amazing. It doesn't sound nice, right? I don't care just on those words. But oddly, isn't that gorgeous? When you realize you don't care, you're available for much more. Roddy, I love so much. You've got a few newer journeys in your life. We've been playing a little bit with history and stories of areas that matter, filtering people, but you've done some other cool things. One of the newest things you've done that I've loved, there's two of them, Roddy. One of them, I'll never forget. I'm going deep right now because my mind just remembered three other things that you've affected our family with, Roddy. And you can never be affected by somebody in your life if you don't let them in your life. So filtering the people in life matter on what life you're going to have. And Roddy, you did something cool. Will you mind sharing what happened? How did you think of this idea? And then what did you do to unlock the idea? And all I'm going to do is frame up the skeleton. And what I know of you, Roddy, is that you saw a moment, you were tickled to know the moment further. Once you discovered what the moment was, you created a space that was not already existing, and you got a corporation that was pioneering something incredibly exquisite for those that get to access. It's very limited. And you found a place to become something like, I think it's an ambassador or something. And this is for something completely different, pioneering in its own nature. And you found a way to get self-invited, Roddy. You did not answer a help wanted ad. You did nothing of the sorts. But you did something wickedly bold. And I want you to share it if you would be willing to, Roddy, because I think so many of us in life have self-thought of what we'd like to create, like entrepreneurship, take our passion and get paid for it. You do. You literally take self-passion. And what I love about you, Roddy, is you find a way for self-passion to get paid. Will you share with me a little bit, my friend, your passion? I think you know what I'm talking about. Will you take us there, please? Will you take us from the beginning?
Well, I'll tell you, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the incredible people at VAV Residences.
Correct.
And the Odyssey and the upcoming Lumina ships. Here's the thing is that what I've always learned is I have my unconscious bias of things based only upon how I see the world, right? And so I have to listen to my clients all the time. And I have, a CRM full of thousands of past clients over 30 years in multiple areas. And, we age with our clients as well, too. So who I was working with now I'm working with some of their friends, families, unfortunately, their estates. People are wanting to make different choices. I've learned to listen to folks because repeatedly what was happening to me was I was hearing people say, I want an alternative to retirement that's not just sitting at home, right? That's not just going to move in my daughter's casita. I want something that's adventure, not surrender, right? And I thought about that and it's very interesting because if you look back on, at least for myself, let me speak in my own terms. In my life, things tend to resonate. There's synchronicity in moments. I remember almost 26 years ago, I was on a cruise with my little brother. I took him on a cruise to graduate college. He graduated from UT Austin, shout out, my alma mater. And we were on this cruise and we were sat with a beautiful older woman who lived on the ship. This was 26 years ago. And I said, and she would, and back in those days, you sat with the same people at dinner all the time. So every meal you would sit with those people at dinner. And she would get dressed up for dinner. She must have been in her 80s, and she came and sat and she had all these fascinating conversations and she would talk to us and she talked about how she lived on the ship. It was so romantic to me. You know what I mean? That notion or that idea. She goes, I don't want to hang around with my grandkids. They're all busy doing their own things. I want to have my adventure. Everything I need is here. I just stay on this ship year round. At that time, I didn't really know how to grasp that, right? But I remember I never forgot her. I can still, in my mind, remember what she looks like. And we were on a cruise. You're like you and me and a lot of the folks that we surround ourselves, we find peace and creativity at sea, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And I remember that I was going through a transition phase recently where I was like, what I'm doing right now isn't bringing me joy. And I've come to a recent time in my life that just says, I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't want to spend a single day, a single hour. I credit this to Kim Cattrall. It's not my original, but when I heard it, it resonated. I don't want to spend a single day or a single hour doing something I don't love, right? And then the other thing is that I don't believe in is the other important part. Well, the universe had other things in mind, and all within the course of about 48 hours, I would say it is. I had reached out. I was so impressed with VAV residences. I was Googling and looking up ways to retire and live on a cruise ship. On LinkedIn, I sent a message to the CEO, Mikhail. It just started a conversation. And so now we're working on launching, and it's just the agreement is finalized. The opportunities are coming up, the ability to find ways for folks to finance it. It's a whole other conversation. But my idea is to bring people the opportunity of residential ownership on a nonstop cruise. So basically, full service, high-end luxury living at affordable prices for retirees, for nomads, for global citizens who want to have primary and secondary home residences on a cruise that continually circles the globe for 3.5 years.
It's spectacular. But the story we're skipping over, and I don't care to. I want to dig into the story.
Teach me.
And we're missing it. So the story is that, and you've got us there. There was a seed that was planted and we both love cruising. That's 100% right. But you did magic. Not only did you research, Roddy, and find out about Villa V, but you did something, my friend. You reached out to the CEO and you unlocked an opportunity that wasn't present. You created something out of desire. Talk about that, please. What did you do?
Not only was it something that I was passionate and interested in learning about, but my clients are asking for alternatives. I serve people. I have so many people telling me they're retiring and they don't want to stay. They can't afford to stay in California, or they don't want to stay in a single space. Many folks had recently talked about becoming expats, and a lot of folks were going to Portugal or Mexico, but those had their own issues too. So regardless, I've been associating myself with brokerages in all different areas. I felt obligated that to serve my clients, I had to learn this product ahead of time. Lucky for me, they're open-minded and visionary as well. It's not just me. They also, at that moment in time, were open-minded to the idea of finding someone who knew how to turn high volumes of equity into adventure and lifestyle choices.
But what I love about it, Roddy, and that's all great, but what I love about it is this. is that you found something that you knew would be valuable for your clients to win through, and you found it wickedly valuable. It was new, it was pioneering, and you found a way. And this is the part I want everybody to hear. You can have whatever you want in life. Yes, you can. How? Have desire. Have passion behind the desire. People will feel your desire, and you can unlock doors that are not availably having an open door sign. Who cares? Go to the back door. There's hardly anybody there. It's probably a screen door, and say hello. And that's what you did, Roddy. That's what I want to focus on. You found a moment. You reached out. You said hello. They invited the moment to become deeper, but it only happened because your passion showed up when the hello first happened, and your passion was felt because you had self-belief in this vision you self-created, that this would be a great avenue for you to represent and to bring their solution to your California market, because you had an abundance of folks that could benefit having this as an option. But all of that, Roddy, was self-developed thought. And your self-developed thought unlocked an opportunity. There wasn't a help wanted sign you answered.
No.
I know that. Well, then tell us. You went and created something of non-existence, and you did it with passion, and passion led you through an invitation to go to Alaska. You're on the cruise ship, and all of a sudden you're meeting these people, the powerful people, creating life cruises that are really actively available. They're limited because there's only so many rooms on a ship. And then you get past that moment, and the next thing you know, there you are, the ambassador to the West Coast for a beautiful luxury lifestyle that you can live the rest of your life circling the planet nonstop. And if you want to get off, rent out your room. It's yours. It's an incredible path that your passion led to. It's great what it's doing, but my focus is about you and how you unlocked an opportunity that was non-existent, but rather bold. And what I heard is you did it because you knew it would help others, the same way that you took Jack and I when you and your husband Randy bought your gorgeous house in the desert. We finally came to visit. You put Jack and I in your gorgeous Jeep, and we went on the Roddy tour. And Roddy goes, let me show you why we picked here. And then Roddy's driving us all around. So he takes us to the area. It's a lot of dirt. Scott, this is going to be an outdoor amphitheater. Downtown Cathedral City is going to build an amphitheater. It's going to have so many arts and cool things. Scott, you see that giant dirt lot there? Imagine this. Brand new casino with all of these shops across the street. And I know you see dirt, but this is coming, Scott. And when it does come, this whole section of this part of the community is going to have a lot of growth opportunity because of what they're going there. Scott, let me take you to what we bought. And then Jack and I got to see your home. And then you took Jack and I by the house you almost bought. And I jumped out of the car and I peeked through the windows because the for sale sign was still there. And I'm like, Jack, come look, come look. And the next thing I know, well, there you are, Roddy. And well, there's Jack and I with our first home in the desert together because of your invitations. And it's one of the gorgeous things you do in life, Roddy. When you know it's going to serve somebody better, you latch on to a way to bring the better to the people. And you're constantly thinking of others before yourself. And it's an incredible thing I witness about you. And it's delicious. I'm confident it's why you're so wickedly successful in what you do. And I'm not going to say real estate. I'm going to say in what you do because it can apply to so many things, mister. I just wrote my first book, launching it out, and it's wickedly delicious. For those of you, I was on Amazon the second I saw that thing hit social post that your new book was launching. And God, after buying, I think, have Jack and I bought 3 houses with you, Roddy? Is it 4? I don't even know how many we've bought. I think 4. We bought 4 houses with Roddy. Be very careful to go to dinner or any fun event. You might find out something you didn't know you want to love. And it might have an address, and you might have a lot of wealth now because you listened. And so I'll just say our family is incredibly positioned now, Roddy, because of the way you touched us, because of your passions and your willingness to share passion, friend. It is an incredible tool you use.
One of the things that I hear that's resonant throughout everything we've talked about, 2 things, right, is in regards to V and the opportunity and working with you is there's no perfect time to wait to start. You just got to do it. You just got to reach out. You just got to start. The thing that's challenging for this new generation of real estate agents or professionals or whatever is most agents these days won't even put someone in their car. They won't do things or do those tours. They won't go to a city meeting and learn about everything like we learned about what's magically happened in Cathedral City, California, where our warehouse and office for the staging company exists today. What I'll tell you is that you have to get out, you have to get around, you have to do people. You don't need $3,000 to spend on online leads. You need to go out, go be yourself, find what you're passionate about, and attract the people who naturally are attracted to you. Because what happens is when you go to the idea that you can pull in, attract, not hunt down, or
Attract,
you've got to attract the people who say, I want to work with you because of this. And sometimes it's completely, you don't even know who you're affecting in those positive ways. But nothing happens in inaction. You just have to get out and do it. Don't wait for the perfect presentation. I don't think I've ever shared this story with you, but I want to share it with you because I feel led to today. Is back in the 90s, I was involved in Silicon Alley in New York City. A friend and I did an internet startup that was solving the problem of real estate in New York City. We had to wait every Wednesday for the Village Voice to come out in order to know what new apartments were for rent. And he had just graduated Columbia Law School. I had just started at a newspaper there after having relocated to New York City. And we went to dinner one night at Joe Allen's and wrote out a business plan on a napkin. There's a way for us to make this classified data available for real estate, available every hour, right? We could just write this script, write this technology. We compiled a little company. In about a year, it blew up humongously. We had every major newspaper signed up in this distribution system. It added a new revenue stream to them. I was very lucky to travel the United States. If you had a major newspaper with circulation over 10,000, I visited you. And it was great until all of a sudden it wasn't. And when it wasn't, we'd financially overexpanded. We weren't sure. We'd taken on employees. We'd done this. We were young guys in our 20s. So it was interesting. What happened was our CEO at the time, he said, hey, I have a friend that I went to college with. We're going to fly out there, do a business presentation. We worked weeks, Scott, to go out, to prepare a business presentation, to go deliver to J.B. Pritzker, who's now the governor of Chicago, in order to get an investment from their family, from Hyatt Corporation and McClatchy Media. They owned a bunch of different stuff at that time. We worked round the clock for this beautiful presentation that I would do and Steve would do with financials and everything and all this. Flew out to Chicago. We're at his house in order to go do this presentation. Steve is very nervous because not only are they friends, but here he is coming to make a financial presentation that is the future of our company. And I want to say it's like a week before Christmas. We accidentally, I don't remember who it was, but someone, when we get out, puts the car keys in the trunk with all of our presentation materials and slams the trunk down.
Oh my gosh, Roddy.
So everything that we were working on, we had 1 hour to go in there and meet with this guy, this really distinguished, notable guy, right? To come in and present on and we locked the keys, the presentation, all the printed material, all our computers. Literally all we had, I remember Steve had a yellow pad in his hand. And we were just all kind of like, well, we're not going to get in there. So what are we going to do? So all of that hard work, we went in there. And we knew this was a make it or break it moment. But what we did is we came in, we connected, and instead of going through the dog and pony show about how great we were and about this product and all of this, we just kind of got to know Mr. Pritzker on a personal basis, talk about the growth, the expansion, answered the direct questions that he had about it, how it would benefit his company. And I remember we were drawing on yellow pads, just like Steve and I were drawing on that napkin at Joe Allen's in New York City. And you know what? Nothing could have gone better. It was more real. It was more in the moment. It wasn't about look at me. It was about let's look at this moment in time. He had no idea that we locked our presentations in the trunk. But I remember, Steve walked out with his hands like this with a check that was going to fund us for another year. But we walked out of there with it. And eventually ended up selling the company to something affiliated with them. This must have been 97, I guess. But what was interesting then is I learned you don't have to have it perfect to sell it. You don't have to have a script. You don't have to come in and do the look at me. The alternative to showing up, having a conversation in that moment and serving the client, how can we all work together to the benefit, is very different than coming in and throwing up on their table everything. I'm number one. We're the best. We've got this. We've got all of that. I think we're now, due to social media, technology, knowing each other, that is very out of vogue. I hear so many real estate agents so hyper-focused on the me, that it almost just kind of tells me, like, what is this really about? Because nothing in a real estate transaction is just about the agent. It's about the family, the opportunity, the equity, the house, all of this. And so many agents also, especially those who are also involved in building and, downlines or recruitment, whatever may be your passion in this industry, there's no perfect moment. You just got to do it. And if you're not willing to just get out there and do it and understand, when the genie pops up and says, you have 3 wishes, you don't say, let me get back to you next Friday.
You just take action.
You just start asking for the wishes, but you have to know yourself enough and know the opportunity of the moment to ask for the right things, right? So the reason I tell that story is that that was one of my very first lessons, that just being real is better than being over-prepared.
I love that, Roddy. Authenticity wins each time. And they often say the best time to start was yesterday, but the next time is right now. And tomorrow's a bit late. Just step into self-belief. Roddy, you are wonderfully amazing. Please, the title of the brand new book, Roddy, there it is, Above Asking, everybody. Take a look if you're watching us. It's Above Asking. You're going to find it on Amazon. Very easy. You're going to love it. Roddy, can you share with everybody listening a little bit about what's in that book?
So my father passed away, it'll be 2 years in January, and he and I had a tradition. Every night we read Dr. Joyce Meyer's Ending Your Day Right. So my dad was my real estate mentor and a good friend. And when he passed away, the idea came to me of how can I continue to have that tradition, but also expand some of the ideas of really being a great person-centric, opportunity-centric agent for the people. And not just for the people, the clients, because of course they deserve all our fiduciary, but for each other, right? How do we show up for each other as real estate agents in a world that always tells us you're not enough? You don't have enough training, you don't have enough circulation, you don't have enough online leads, of brokerages that are continually trying to find something new to sell us, right? So I think to myself, what happens when you just stop and you realize you have everything you need to do the next thing? What happens when the journey for more comes to the journey into the core, right? Of who I really am, what I want to get out of this business, and who I want to be. So I decided to compile a daily devotional or motivational. There's no spiritual affiliation to it. What could something be that individual agents and teams and folks could use that would help guide them through the year to become better at knowing themselves, each other, and being really great real estate agents. Not thinking about what I don't have, but what I already have that makes me wealthy as a spiritual and good person. And so that was the impetus of it. And so, I had the opportunity to finally do it. We put it together. And the goal is that in a perfect brokerage or world that's using it, folks are reading it together. My team reads it together every morning, and then we kind of comment through it. But it's a tool to be able to help people show up as who they really are, and for it to be okay to look inward, to then, plan outward, but using the tools you have now, not waiting for some magic moment that you have to pay for to come.
I love it, Roddy. I love your willingness to constantly focus on the giving. Your book is further proof positive of what I'm speaking of. And I love it. And I love you for joining us today, Roddy. It was really important for me to introduce our listeners to you, my friend. Very special person in this beautiful world we get to live in. And every now and then we find those little angels and unicorns, and I sure found one, and now you found a new friend. And Roddy, I'm going to make sure your book link is right here in the notes. Everybody, don't waste a second. Click it, change your world, change your thoughts, and change how you show up and watch what happens on the other side of all of that. And all of a sudden, your self-belief is going to grow. Your I don't care on the other side is going to become more available. And you're going to be thinking thoughts that you weren't thinking just the moment before. And that's the world of intention. And intention can be self-painted and guided through great books. This is one of those incredible motivating books. It's another snapshot of your absolute beauty, Roddy, and what you give to this world and the people you affect. Surround yourself with beautiful people and beautiful things will happen. Thank you so much for joining Roddy and I today on Believe Boulder. We love that you're part of the community. And while, gosh, if you loved what we enjoyed to get to visit about today, we'd love it if you shared it with your friends, if you'd leave us a 5-star review. It invites other listeners to find us. And, well, I really appreciate you were here with us today. I know Roddy does as well.
I do.
And this is well, it's great to say hi once again. And, well, we can't wait to see you next week right here at BelieveBoulder.com. Until then, well, here's to everything beautiful. Bye.